Hi, everybody. Apologize for the delay. We are just admitting a lot of students. So we'll just start in 5 minutes. Kindly hold on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to yet another session. Uh, it's always a pleasure to see you all. Sharing my work has been something that um, has allowed me to let you know not only about my journey in the process of discovering an alternate to the traditional forms of Bharatanatyam, but also to be a voice for the traditional system from a different perspective of giving you insights of being an outsider and looking at the traditional uh, form of Bharatanatyam, the way it's presented, and to maybe share with those of you who believe and conform to it, to still be, you know, still be able to incorporate some of those elements that I've discovered as I've moved into dance films, which is the world that I populate at this point of time. So this session is really looking at Abhinaya from that perspective of where I am and what I've evolved to become, and comparing and contrasting that with my own journey of being a traditional dancer, and allowing these two streams to perhaps find some commonalities, some voices of concordance that we can maybe share and learn, and yet evolve Abhinaya, because the standard, the point of the benchmark today for Abhinaya, and really when you look at Abhinaya, it's nothing but a form of acting, and a way of expressing yourself, isn't it? So when we look at the benchmark for what is out there today for expression of communication, the benchmark really is cinema. So we'll begin with the some of the elements that all of us watch cinema. And if I were to ask you the very simple question of everything you have seen in this past year, of all the movies you have seen, can you tell me something that stands out in your memory? Not only will you be able to name a film or more than a film, you probably can immediately visualize some element of that film, some scene from that film, maybe one or more scenes from that film that immediately stand out. Now, that kind of imagery that cinema is able to produce is, of course, there's a large part of it because of the huge production team that is involved, and the the kinds of budgets that are behind it. There's all of that, and here you are as a many of you solo dancers trying to create that kind of an atmosphere on stage all by yourself with the aid of just musicians. Now, in the traditional format, as all of you know, where Bharatanatyam evolved from, and I don't think I need to go through that. It has the history of being presented with a strong Naika bhava, right? Which is the idea of the Shringara, or the sentiment of love as the theme, which eventually, of course, there was the the whole systematization of these pieces and the incorporation of bhakti. All of that did follow suit, but every time a dancer presented her work, and it remains even till today, the stage is the dominant geography, or where the interaction between the audience and the performer happens. The difference between the screen and the stage setting has made us, over the time, made our art into an exaggerated way of delivering content. Because I remember to this date being told by my teachers that your Abhinaya should reach the last row of audiences, right? So having that as the instruction obviously meant a certain exaggerated tone in which we expressed our body language, expressed with our hand gestures, because for dance, unlike cinema, our voice is our body language. Our voice comes from our hand gesture. So we don't have the spoken language. So we have to communicate to the very last person seated in the last row with these tools and nothing else. So what is the difference? What has cinema really, evolved to become. Because if you look at cinema, it had very much the same sort of parallel. Cinema came from stage, where stage actors, if you look at Shivaji Ganeshan from the South industry, or any of the actors of the Hindi film industry who evolved from stage and then moved on to the movies, at one point they would have um, all subscribed to the idea that you need to exaggerate, right? More so in the South industry than in the Hindi film industry. But that was at one point, projection of your voice, throwing your voice far enough to reach, to project your emotions so that you can connect. Everything was overdone. So we both have evolved from the same place, cinema and dance, but dance has remained even till today a largely, performances are in the stage setting. But parallelly, whether it was accelerated by the pandemic, or whether it was something that would have happened even otherwise, we have launched ourselves into the digital forum. So now we have more and more um, dancers putting up their work on the digital forum. And how do you modulate yourself for that? Even on stage, I feel that there could be, given that there is technology and you don't need to necessarily have just the image of the dancer, that there are several projections that are being used while the dancer is on the stage, so that people get a more close-up view of the dancer's face concurrently as the dancer is dancing. There are many such performances that are being tried out. So given all of this, I think it's time to evolve the Abhinaya. So what directions can Abhinaya take is the next, is really going to be the sharing that I hope to do in this session. I'm going to divide this into 3 parts. I just want to couple of things. Those of you that are inner circle members that attend my session regularly know that this is a master class. So the idea is to not teach you a piece, is to hopefully leave you inspired so that you go back at the end of this session with a yen to maybe discover something on your own, with that sense of that there is more, that there could be another way of looking at things, to seek within yourself and to find your own and forge your own path. And that really is the reason I hold these master sessions. They're not to teach a choreography. I think there are dime a dozen ways for you to learn choreographies, and I don't want to be just another source for another piece. So hopefully this platform will be a little bit more than that. So having said that, let's look at a traditional piece. Let's start with tradition. And the reason I start with tradition is because you have the music readily available. This is what is available to most of you. While it is nice to look at how do you dance to dialogue, how do you evolve dialogue, how do you do all of those kinds of things, which I'll talk about in the 3rd part. Let's begin with what you have first, a traditional piece. How can you take a traditional piece and move it into perhaps a dimension where you're still within the framework of tradition, but at least maybe there are some ideas that I'm starting to seed in you. So for this, I've taken the piece Yarukagi Lumbayama. So in that piece, the heroine of the piece is, for those of you that are not familiar with it, is fairly brazen, is going out to meet, in this case, the chief, who who happens to be bestowing favors on her, and she has become his someone that is very close to him. Now, that chief we can replace with anyone that she is going out to meet that is not sanctioned by society. So whatever that relationship is not given permission by society. And this lady does not give any sort of, she's not ashamed of it, and she's quite brazen and bold about it. So this is the context of this piece, right? So the core of it is very simply this. So let's look at what are the opportunities of taking the Pallavi, the first stanza. So do we have the music? So if you want to follow along, and I will just give you can you hear this music? Can you just, okay. So here, it's a very traditional, she's tying flowers, and then she's picking up some fruit. She's put it on a plate. And now opens the door. Very standard, right? This is the traditional approach where, because she is a Naika who's very bold, even the way she would sit to make the flowers, while she's anticipating that moment, is very assured. She puts the flowers on the plate. She takes the fruits. Here is a moment where, yeah, this is good. The idea that the chief is going to have it. So some amount of concern. And from there, she picks up the plate and she goes out, right? Now, the one thing that I set up before she went, she adjusted her veil. I put it a little bit modestly across myself. Here's a brazen woman, but still following the rules of society, has covered her head, right? Or being modest in whatever way, right? Because I want to give an opportunity for storytelling. And I'll tell you what this story is and why the telling of it is so important, right? So I have my veil and I'm going. And then as I've stepped out, my friend is coming and she's saying, yeah, what is it? All these people, look at them. They're all talking about you. Oh, I have to be scared. So you put the plate down, have to be scared of these people. Let them speak. So in transitions is where the change, a large part of the change is happening. Okay. In the traditional way of of how Abhinaya was taught, right? The transitions become very focused on the words and the repetition of the words. So if you're saying Yarukagilum Bayama the first time, you say, oh, these people with the eyes, maybe I have to be scared. Let them speak. Summa sollatum. Yidil, in this, what is the secret? Okay. Look, nothing is there. Let them speak. Let them go on speaking as much as they want. Right. The next line would be Yarukagilum Bayama, same line 5-6 times, right? So it would be an enumeration of a different way of saying the same thing. It's like you took your friend and put the same thing. You took your friend and you've decided you're going to, like a parrot, tell her the same thing because she's kind of dim-witted. Right. In today's context, if you repeat yourself 6 times to a well-meaning friend who has come to you and said, hey, don't go, these people are all talking about you, and you tell her 6 times, no, I will go. That friend is going to say, Amma Taye, please go. I have done my part, I am going home. Correct? Yeah. It is how it is, right? In today's context, if you were to think of the repetitiousness of it. So the way that I see the piece evolve is push it forward, right? So make it into a story. So you've stated, as you have been taught, that line is over, the padartha or whatever you've said to the friend. Now, in the second line, instead of just repeating that with a different emphasis, you can progress the story. How can you progress it? So think of it in terms of, okay, she's just heard it from you that, listen, let them be, whoever they are, right? So she says, hey, look again, look who all have come. So many of them are there. So then how can you react to that is how you should think. If she says, look, so many of them are there, then you could say, sorry, I'm just admitting as, so your response could be something like, aha, they are so many and I am one. So I should hide and be afraid, right? Okay. So if Yarukagilum Bayama Ayyo Summa Sollatum. What would the next be? Summa Sollatum. You're saying let them speak, right? So there's a way to move it into, you've already told her Summa Sollatum. Now you act on that. Summa Sollatum. Okay, listen. Please move aside. Please move. All of you go here, there, right? You've split them. Summa sollatum idil yenna. What is your problem? Direct confrontation, right? She's brazen, she's bold. She has no problems with direct confrontation. Idil yenna raga. I have to be afraid. Siyama. Summa. No chance. You guys do whatever you want. Sollatum. You've crossed that. Okay, so think of it geographically. As you have done this, you have moved through that group and you've emerged on this side of them, say. Okay. So now your friend is here, right? She's still like, oh my God, you are not going to listen, are you? So there's not much conversation that is needed. All you have to do is then carry on with where you have to go, right? So then you say something like, Yare kagilum. These people, huh? Who are they? Oh my God, now I see them when they're standing this close. This person, that person, haven't seen her in a long time. She's also here. Look, all these characters have shown up. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to build a story in time and space geographically so that you have an escalation of whatever you're doing connected to the previous line. So it flows like a story, right? So whether you do this action of, oh my God, who is this? Who are these people? Oh, I see Aparna, I see Sunita. My goodness, even Laksh. Look at that. All these jokers are here. They'll come for this. When you call them, they won't come, but they are here. Ah, fantastic. Very happy to see you all. Right? So with that kind of attitude, or you could do something like the next, where they might do, where you're being actually blocked by them. So you've moved aside, you've said this comment, and then you're like, hey, I'm going to take my veil. So here is my storytelling, right? I covered myself. I'm going to remove the veil. There. I don't need to be worried. So then I'm going to walk through. At that point, they're blocking me. Yeah. So when they block me, you physically look at, oh, you have that much boldness. You take their hands and you part them. You go this side, you go that side. And then you go through. And then you do something like, the dust of your dress, and you move. At which point your friend might come running and say, you've gone across, but do you know what they're capable of? This person is so connected politically. This person is connected to that person. You don't know what will happen when you come back home. In today's world, it is tu janta nahi hai main kaun hu is not unheard of, right? You don't know whom I am connected with. That idea is common even in today's world. So she's saying you don't know whom you've upset by doing this. It's a natural corollary, right? So for which she could say something like, here the hero will come, because the hero is the chief of the place. So there she calls one of them, come. So you know him, he is higher than any authority, and I am going to see him. What will you do? So just plan your piece in such a way that there is some sort of story where you connect with it, is all I'm saying, right? Stories are very significant. Stories are the center of cinema. And if you become repetitious and just emphasize, okay, first time I did Yarikagilum Bayama by saying, with my eyes, those people. Second time I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 4. So there is my difference. That is not enough anymore, I feel. Because, and then you can escalate by saying, I'm counting. Oh, Yarikagilum, that's a third time I'm going to say that, different ways of saying Yarikagilum. I'm going to count it. Fourth way of saying, these low life. It's not about just that is all, is the point I want to convey. That might be part of the story you're trying to be. Okay, so if you plan your piece so that you look at what is the friend going to respond as you speak that line, and how are you going to build it so that both in time and space, in geography, you're planning the Pallavi to evolve. But the friend has to come in the end because the Anupallavi is said to her. So please don't tell the friend, okay, okay, I'm gone. I'm going, and then you please go home. You have to find a way to bring her back. So here is that friend, that well-meaning friend that, you know, that you're going to narrate the Anupallavi to. So you'll have to build it in that manner. And what I think it does for today's student is it sees the whole thing evolve as a story, right? Rather than, okay, the first line, second line, here is the dialogue for the second line, third line, this is the dialogue. As long as you're differentiating first from second to third, it's enough. It's not enough is what I'm saying. Okay, see if you can evolve a storyline even within the traditional context. So that is the first point of today's session. The technique itself has evolved, right? So I'll touch upon those things briefly. The technique of Abhinaya, the transitions, the subtlety, and I think for that I'm going to use the next song, which is from the Bollywood. You know, it really not from the Bollywood context in the sense that Bollywood has adapted it very beautifully for many of the, you know, it has featured in many films. Aaj Jane Ki Zid Na Karo. And I think it's now also populated the Bharatanatyam dance world. The Nazm, which was originally sung, was probably in the context of a tawaif, of a lady who has no ownership on the person that she's with. Okay, she has no claim on him. And I'm picking these songs because they're accessible to you, right? And then we will move away from the love theme, completely away. But you have to work with what you have first. So the piece that I've chosen for the second part, which I want to focus a little bit on technique, is Aaj Jane Ki Zid Na Karo. In this piece, the beauty, I think, of this piece is the realization that the music is completely known, has been completely internalized by everybody who is familiar with the Bollywood industry. It's a beautiful piece. Everyone has a connect. If they have listened to it, they have some sort of personal connect. They have heard it in several ways. They have seen different visual imageries for it. So when the music is very familiar and everybody has something, you know, if you play that music, chances are that somebody will tell you that, hey, that's my favorite, I love that, right? So they've already got a personal empathetic connect with it. So then now you're putting an imagery on it, right? So it's important, I feel, when you take music that is extremely well known, and it could be something as simple as you know, a shloka that is well known, or anything in the bhakti realm. It is important to again find a story in it, right? So how do we find a story in this piece? What is the situation? Where do you go to for the story? The character and the context. So if a woman has no claim, no ownership on the person that she's singing this for, right? The man's point of view can be really too, oh my God, I have brought so much pain. Say she sobs her heart out that you're leaving me and you're going. And it's not like a permanent goodbye also. Just saying, today, don't leave me, right? Because it's just so hard for her. And so if you take it in the sense that, oh my God, I'm destroying this woman, in today's context, it'll be if he really loved her, he would think, okay, I can never be hers. That's not sanctioned by society. So if I bring her so much pain and I really care about this person, then I might just say, maybe I should not bring her so much pain. It's a very logical thing to do, right? And how can I not bring her so much pain? By returning over and over again and causing her that pain, because I cannot be hers. Or he can be, oh my God, I didn't think I was getting into this kind of relationship. So if she's enduring so much pain, I better run from here. Those are two natural consequences given the context of what is going on, right? So, in my opinion, the storytelling really is if you make her into a character who has become so used to not displaying what is in her heart on her face, right? That is not the story that is in the music. The music is very open. It's saying, मैं लुट जाऊंगी, मैं I'll have nothing, मैं मर जाऊंगी. So if you make it into something where the heart speaks something, but the heart and the eyes are connected. So the eyes speak her truth and the lips speak a different language. So how do you do that? Let's see. Shall we play the music? So I'm using Arjit Singh's version. Just give me a quick moment. I'm just finding the music for you. So the way this is set up, yeah, you can play. Just turn on the video. Sorry, music. When the music is not playing, ma. Cannot hear what is being played. Music too loud. Which is it? Is it that you cannot? Ah, what I'm saying is not audible.
Yeah.
ठीक है.
Shall we play it in the bowl?
So I'll play it from my phone itself then, because I think if I play through the computer, it's coming too loud, and then you can't hear me. Give me a quick moment. Right. So she's sleeping and he is at the edge of the bed. He's put on a shirt and pant, and imagine he's bending down to tie his shoes, right? So she wakes up with that sense of his presence. Just normal, very normal. Don't make the waking up. Don't make the waking up into a, it's not like some, you have to announce you're waking up. Just wake up. Open your eyes. And it's only when you open your eyes that the happiness of just being there Open. And you see him. Yeah, go ahead, play. You see his back. So you wake up. You stop your hand halfway because you realize he's a little more dressed than normal. He's facing the other way. And you see that music again. Sorry. Where do you go from there? After you have said you have to leave, heart is beating, right? You're leaving. Okay, ठीक है. I know this happens every month when you come. Okay. Only lips. Eyes have to speak your beginning of that sense of loss, right? Of whatever she's feeling in that song. Then what happens? She sees on the bed the keys to his house. She reaches, she takes the key and she hides it. And he comes on this side and she says, I don't have anything. मेरे पास कुछ नहीं है. I don't have anything. Turn your face slightly away and I'll tell you why in a bit, right? So you're saying no. And from there, this key stands for his family, something that you will never have. So you say, ठीक है. This is what you want, right? And when he comes to take the keys, where you show your reflex is this other hand of yours comes without your own knowledge to stop him from taking it. And then you back off. That's it. Those are the subtle ways in which you can display what is here. Okay. You take your hand off and he takes the key. By that time, the line will shift. Very simple story that you're building, right? While the music is saying something like, what is the next line? Let's play it. ऐसे बातें किया ना करो were the words, right? Your hand is going to say, ऐसे बातें किया ना करो. Don't speak these. This is very typical Bharatanatyam. Pesa de. Your hand is going to block his lips, but what did you decide you want to do with that? You went to block it, and he's like, क्या? नहीं, मुझे कुछ लगा यहाँ पे कुछ था. Right? Just do that instead. Don't take the right even to tell him don't go. Different perspective from the way it's typically done, because here you can build a story. What is the story? The story is of that woman, of her wanting to tell him to not go, which is the voice that you're hearing. Let it be the inner voice. Her actions are what the audience sees. So here you have two layers. You see what I'm trying to build here. Arjit is singing beautifully. Let that be her inner voice that the audience is hearing. Let them see a visual of her struggle, of not displaying what is in her heart. Yeah. So I would build the whole piece like that, till the point where she's actually like taking his clothes, putting it in the suitcase, closing it. The last part, whatever you do, as many stanzas as you want in this context, you take it and you give it to him, right? He took it and you're waiting. And he says, see you next month. Utna hi hai. For him, it's just, yeah, very transactional. I'll see you next month. Yeah. And he's going, right? So as he's going, there's a moment he turns back, right? So just that flicker of, and he turned back to say bye. Say your bye. And then I would end something like that with, if it was a film, just on that very simple note. Just to give you an idea of how to take a very familiar song and to give it a different visual, so that the song does one auditory register for the registry for the for somebody who's watching it, and your visual gives a different level of interpretation. You don't need to repeat the song in your action, is the second major point I want to make. Hopefully this is connecting with you, and I'm at least I'm able to communicate this in the short time that we have, right? The second major point. Now the third and final piece that I want to speak about, or rather I want to invite somebody very special to speak about, is from my own work. So in my own work, which is all available for you to see in case you have missed out, they're all on YouTube. And this particular piece of work, I used it on stage. So this evolved from stage, very much a stage production. And the way that I've put it up on the digital platform today on YouTube is for you to feel that it's a stage performance, unlike my more recent dance films where I want you to enjoy it as a dance film. So when we first archived it, and I'm talking about Chains, the idea was to archive it as a stage performance. It's a story. As I said, the story is my main thing, that if I can communicate that at the end of today, I have done my part. The first song we did, there was a story in a very simplistic, rudimentary, very time, space, theme, kind of very basic levels of a storytelling. The second one had a layered vignette. You saw a character building more than anything. You saw a woman whose character was intriguing, right? Because the auditory and the visual were not a direct fit, and you had to then interpret to some degree her own struggles, right? So in the third and final piece, rather than my setting up the concept and the context of it, I want to invite the writer of chains and really give you the reason behind why chains evolved, how it evolved, and what it meant, this part of chains meant to him. Because for storytelling, no better person to tell you the context, the the character, and to give you that kind of background. I think I personally would fail. He's sitting right here in front of me, and I should not even try to tell the story. He is my commentary. He is not just my director and my and the writer of chains, but in every part of life, he is the reason and beyond. So Sri is going to speak about this.
Sure. Thank you so much for inviting me, and welcome to the session. I won't take much of your time, given that you're here to watch her, and I've just been called to explain a story. I'll do my bit and leave her to emote this as only she can. So, Chains is a project that we released in 2015, I think, several years ago. Um, this story was based on the lives of three women from my life, my mother, my grandmother, and my wife, Savitha. However, in the stage production, the three followed as though we were telling the story of only one woman. That woman in that stage was called Vichitra. Now, I'll come to the story follows Vichitra through three different ages in her life. In the first part, she is a young teenager. In the second part, she is a middle-aged woman, now married, has children, has a mother-in-law, father-in-law, the regular life. In the third part, which is the part we are going to present to you right now, in the third part, she's an old lady. And this part was actually taken from my grandmother's life. Now, after my grandfather died, my grandmother lived alone in Chennai. I used to live in the United States at that time, and her other son also lived in the United States. We tried our best to get her to live with us, and she refused to move out of the house where she lived with her husband for many, many years. She was growing very old. We were very worried for her. Her neighbors started telling us that she's behaving very strangely. She talks to herself all the time, although there's nobody else at home. We even thought maybe, she's going senile. Should we move her to an old age home in Chennai or in Coimbatore instead if she doesn't want to come to the US? They were very difficult decisions for us, especially because we lived outside, right? And it came from a good place from us, but she would not hear of moving away from that place. And she actually died in that very house a few years later. I think she lived as peacefully as she could in those last years of her life. Now, in Chains, what we did was this woman, this old lady, I portrayed her as someone who has fallen in love with solitude, tanimai, tanhai. We personified solitude as a human being that only she could see, and she kept talking to solitude. Nobody else could see solitude, but she found solitude to be her companion, her life companion, because for the first time in her life, she encountered someone who listened to her without judging her, without giving her an opinion, without telling her how she should be leading her life. And to that extent, she fell in love with solitude. And to encapsulate the journey of Vichitra, I had written a poem at that time. Unfortunately, what I wrote was never presented per se in the production. I had written it in Hindi. What we used in the production was an English version of it. Now, I shall present to you the same poem in Hindi before I give the stage back to Savitha. And the reason I think I should give it to you in Hindi is because sometimes when you write it in that language or write it in any language that you're familiar with, the truth and the honesty that comes out of it is far more than a translated version. However, you shall hear the translated version when Savitha is performing it, just in case you don't follow, Hindi. So I will give you what I had written at that time, and this encapsulates the life of Vichitra and encapsulated the life of my grandmother as well. So this goes out to her. वही सवाल लोगों के होठों पर, घटाओं के गरजते बादलों के बीच, रेगिस्तान में नदियां ढूंढने का ख्वाब क्यों देखती? कैसे समझाऊं जमाने को बारिशों का आनंद हो या मृग तृष्णा की गूंजती निराशा? ये तो मेरे मन का विकल्प है ना, फिर भी वही सवाल लोगों के होठों पर. I will give this back to Savitha to take us through how she emoted this, how she did this on stage is something that stayed with me for a long, long time. As I said, we did this in 2015 and it's probably gone to 15 countries, over 100 shows. I've attended at least 95% of those shows, and I have never failed to be touched by what she did because I never saw her doing it. I thought I saw my own grandmother on stage at that point in time. I hope she instills the same feeling in you. Namaste. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So here, I think we've gone beyond tradition, beyond Bollywood into using dance, but in a very in a way to speak the language of this person's soul, right? It doesn't do justice for me to even have the poetry be said by this character, because I don't see the grandmother saying the poetry. It would just be in her, every part of her life would echo that. So I think the hand gestures are irrelevant in this. The only thing that you could hope to do while the music is playing, while the dialogue is going, is to just create the ambience for that, right? Let the dialogue register and just create the environment for that registry. That's how I saw this. And this is the very last scene. So if you want to see the whole production, it's available on YouTube. It's the very last scene. So bear with me for the fact that I'm not, it's a full 1 hour, 15-minute production, and there's no way I can do all of that.
I understood her.
So the voice you're hearing is the shadow. And we decided to have the shadow speak in a male's voice because she has fallen in love with her own shadow, right? With solitude, who has been essayed as her shadow. Solitude has been given the character of being her shadow, right? So I'm just doing the very last refrain of this.
And at night, she would hold my hand and smile at me knowingly. Till death do us part, she would say to me, as we walked into the darkness of sleep, my name was Solitude, and she had chosen to live her life with me. This time, it was a love to last forever.
They ask me why I search for a river in a desert, as I stand drenched in the pouring rain. How do I explain the pleasure of rains on a hill, or the parched disappointment of a mirage in the desert should be the consequence of my choice alone?
That's just that she's with somebody that she imagines is her companion, and that is solitude, right? You heard only dialogue on music. So in all my productions, I've tried to move away from lyrical because of the language barriers, right? A lot of you have written to me about it. That language is a huge barrier. Um, Religion is a barrier. Uh, there's, the whole idea of a woman being looked at as only an object of love, incapable of anything except being the victim. So we've gotten away from all that through the stage years itself. So I won't even, I'm not going to go into the content of what we have done. And I mean, today's session was more about the delivery and the evolution of Abhinaya. So I use dialogues a lot in English because it allows me to take it across international borders. English is easily by far the most widely spoken language. And when dialogue is going on in English, again, I do not, there are some occasions when I will actually speak the dialogue with my hand gestures, but you don't need to, right? Let the dialogue register. People are listening to it. They can do two things at the same time. They can see and listen. There's no problem. Yeah. So let the dialogue go. I don't have to sit there saying, oh, I have the right to stand in the rain or see a mirage. Can you see how out of place that would become? If I were to actually act out that poem with my hand gesture, suddenly one old lady pops up and starts doing mudras. Not necessary. The poem is so beautiful. It stands by itself as a work of art. All you can do is be the reflection through which that art can be communicated to your audience. That's what my role is, to not repeat it, not be a repetitive echo of that in a different language. It's almost, I feel like if I were to use my hand gestures while the music is speaking in English, I'm just saying that in German or whatever, another language. Why? Because dance is so much more than that. Why just repeat it in the gestural language? You can create the environment in which that art, that piece of art, that piece of poetry needs to be framed in. And when you do that, the combination, the sum of those two parts of the visual and the auditory registry becomes so much more for the audience to just kind of go back with this gush of that visual, which is what cinema does so beautifully, right? Because when the actors are speaking, you're not just seeing the actors, you're seeing so much more than that. If they were just acting all films in a black box and you were only evaluating their acting skills, then maybe it'll be far less of an experience. So create that presence by at least having two layers, a visual and an auditory, right? In this context, it flows very well. So I think I am done with my part of the presentation. As I said in the beginning of the session, this I think is to inspire you. It's not a one-on-one teaching forum where I lead you through a choreography. I think that there's plenty of teachers who can take you there, but hopefully you got something out of this session, and I would love to hear from you now. Let's open it up for questions. So if you want to unmute and raise your hand, let's take some questions.
This
Yeah.
is Chaya.
Hi,
I really,
Chaya. Yes, Chaya, go ahead.
this is my first session with you, ma'am. I really enjoyed it. Thank you for offering this. Your concept of having a solitude friend was very nice. However, how do we, I know you had the poem and all that stuff, right? But for people like us who don't have the music or the poem or anything, where do we start with themes like that?
Okay, so this goes back to that, to the many sessions we've had on content, right? So content is a big part of what you need to get. You need to find a way to get meaningful content. So content can be either worked with your own creativity, and if you feel that your creativity doesn't allow you to go to that place, and your dancers, you don't need to have the that kind of writing skills. So there's two ways to look at it. Look at it from the perspective of, is there a story that you have in your own life that you can bring out, right? Or is there a story that you have read that you could perhaps adapt, that you have really connected with? So regardless of what it is, there could be something very impelling in your own life, like Shri just said that this was his grandmother's life, right? And it's a matter of how do you take that life and you communicate it. It's what he saw is probably something that a lot of our grandmothers and the elders went through. And in today's world where children are in America and you see the elders caught in India, this is a very familiar sight, that you have to be alone in your old age. And we probably see this more in today's world than even before. So given this situation, it's what you use and how you bring it forward. You don't need a lot. You just need a piece of instrumental music which evokes that feeling. And I've spoken about this, about look for music that evokes emotion for your story. So if it is your personal story or an adaptation, pick something that you really deeply connect with. And the next, once you have the umbrella of the story, then you go for the music. You have to find music that is giving you that evocative quality of that story. And you don't, as you can do this on a short story of 2 minutes or 5 minutes. Don't take up a huge production. You don't need to save the world in one day, right? So it's when you chew off more than you can handle, that's where the problem comes. Take a simple theme, maybe a mother-daughter theme if you're a mother, or a daughter, or somebody who's got issues with just so many things happening and the struggles of not being able to handle it. Even things like that can become a story. Finding the right music, and then finding a reason to dance, right? It's not just about, okay, I have this amazing ability to choreograph geometric patterns, and so I'm going to just put it together and dance regardless of what the concept is. No, the dance is third, but it has the most prominent role because that's what the visual registry is, right? What you see with your eye has the greatest impact in your head. So even though it comes third, you have to plan it with so much care that it speaks nothing but the story and the music, and it evolves from that core. So the dance has to have meaning, not because you just want to put it there. So if you have these things in place, your product will automatically have an element of honesty. And an honest dancer, an honest actor is um, is uh, is really the formula that you should go for, and not worry about how is this going to be registered by my audience. If you put out honest work and your content has merit, it comes from your own life, you have conviction in your story, the product will have its merit. The technical part of it, whether you're a dancer of technical merit, I'm not even questioning. If you're not of technical merit, then please dance and get your technique to the point where you can tell a story, right? So that is a given. So I'm not going to discuss that in this forum. Thank you, Chaya. Hopefully I've given you some ways of proceeding.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hi, Akka. I am totally inspired by your concept of having a different auditory stimuli and having a different visual thing. And but my question is that these days, so most of the padams or any traditional music you see are either in very old Tamil or Telugu or Kannada.
Yeah.
And that is not really understood by the audience of this time. A very small percentage of the audience actually understands that language.
Right.
So if we defer the auditory stimuli, the music and the visuals, won't it become confusing when you already don't understand what the lyrics are?
See, it's like this. If you want the auditory passages to create a mood, like how they use in cinema, right? This has now become basic. Before, they used to run around the trees mouthing all those songs. Now the song will be going on. Maybe suddenly you'll see them mouth a little bit of it, and then the rest of it will be some other scene going on, right? So it's not anything new. If you want to reproduce the song verbatim, you're running into not only the language, you're also running into the repetitiousness of the lines, right? So logically, you have to figure out, do you really want to repeat it that many times? You just do it once and leave a construct in some manner that you speak more than the music, is what I'm telling you, Deba, right? In whatever manner possible, because the music is already there. Hopefully, if you're looking at the need of language being so significant, then why dance at all? Right? Then just play the music, let them listen to it and walk away. Nah? So the idea is to allow your dance to rise above the language barrier, to rise above the notes of the Carnatic music, which may be limiting the appreciation of the audience itself. There are people who don't connect with Carnatic music at all. You've already lost them. There are people who don't understand the language, who might be there. And if you just repeat the same line in the mudras, you're now imposing two languages. One, the hand gestures, which is a language that they don't understand. And then you have the language of the music. So you've got two barriers, and somehow you've got to come over that. So whenever I've used, and I'll tell you what I did. So you will find productions in which I have used music in a particular language, and I just let it run like a background, right? I let it run like a background. I make the visual very simple that you understand what it is. So to give you an example, I used it in the creation of the human by God in youth. So while God is creating the first human, right? There is a music that is in Tamil. However, the actions of him creating the human, the tenderness with which he looks at that human, and the joy it gives him when his creation finally comes to life, those are the visual elements that I'm trying to communicate. I'm not trying to communicate every part of that Tamil lyric. And to me, it is not important that they understand the Tamil lyric at all. It is only important that they understand that there is a relationship between God and the human that was created, and the beauty of that relationship. So if you keep your purpose, your intention of what you want to communicate clear, I think that might help define what is important and what you can let go. Details, always let it go. The big picture, go for that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, when you were doing the acting, I have heard of these actings before also, but what's the language used in that? Is it Tamil or is it Sanskrit or any other language?
So it depends on whose song you're doing, Bacha. So it really depends. It could be any language. There's songs in every language that you could do emotional pieces on. So there's no, and the beauty of it is that you don't need a language, is what I'm trying to tell you, right? Do it to pure music. You don't need anything. Just need pure music that you connect with and you tell a story. If you like, you put a dialogue on it in English or whatever language you want it, right?
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Any other questions? Okay. So hopefully this has left you, at least thinking. If it left you inspired, then I'm delighted. And as we have done in the other sessions, please feel free to reach out to me with ideas or any questions you might have that you are still processing what I've said and trying to understand how you could have ownership on something like this. Always feel free to reach out to me. There is a WhatsApp number. I think all of you being Inner Circle members, you probably all know the WhatsApp number through which you can reach me. And if you don't, write to me on my social media handle, Instagram, or send me an email, and we'll make sure that you're part of the Inner Circle WhatsApp group, and you can write to me on that. I'm more than happy to be a sounding board for this kind of work, because I do feel very strongly that we can evolve, not just Abhinaya, but all aspects of dance, of making it content driven, and technique as something that should support it, and not feel like technique is all that is being drilled down. Every day I'm working on technique, and I've forgotten why I'm doing all this, right? I'm just stuck with, okay, I know technique now, I don't know what to do with it. So that is the purpose of why I created the Inner Circle, is to start with technique, but to take it to a place where you know what to do with it. If you don't have anywhere to go, then you're just creating copycats of of a system, and it's like it propagates itself beautifully, right? The teacher teaches the students, and the students become teachers in their next stage and teach exactly that. Then what? How does art evolve? Where is your voice in it? Who are you as an artist? How do you grow? And that really is the reason why the Inner Circle was created, to give you ideas for taking your art forward in different ways, and just making you think of what you could do. It's not about my work. My work is already out there. It's about all the great things you could be making and working on and producing, even with the simplest of tools. So hopefully today's session left you with with something that you can go back, just take your own music, play it, and see if you can reformat it to a slightly different way than what you were doing, in a manner that connects with you. Please don't do it because I said so. Find your own voice and really take it forward. Yeah. Thank you all so much for being a part of this session, and I look forward to you joining me. Anything before I go, I want to invite my student Varsha. Now, Varsha is, has been learning Abhinaya, and she has learned, and she's more close to many of your age, right? She's not from a bygone era. She is somebody that thinks young, right? So I want to leave, a little bit of the perspective of somebody who's young, who's looking at Abhinaya from that point of view of belonging to this generation. And I want her to just tell you, what is it that she connects with, right? We've already said these padams and all that have some issues, but what is it that she likes about Abhinaya, and what is it that she feels she can bring into her work?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, ma'am, for the surprising question. To talk about what I connect with when people do Abhinaya,
or you do it yourself?
When I watch, I would say both.
Okay.
When I watch somebody doing Abhinaya, I would connect to the situation which I was in, or I would have seen somebody who are in. I think that would apply to everybody. So if I would have experienced something like my brother has a child, and how the father and the son relationship goes on, if somebody is enacting that part, then I would connect it to that more than losing somebody. I might not be a person who have gone through the same feeling as the character. So that part I connect to more oftenly. And secondly, when I do it, it's more to empathize the character. So it always helps, as ma'am says, to know the entire story, what the character is going through. So even while she teaches Abhinaya and we introspect each character in a piece, it's very evident that she always goes into the character very deeply. So how I would take you through how the class goes. So first she'll do it, and then I'll have 100,000 questions. I'll ask her why this, why that, why not this, why not this. And then she'll give me answers which is always related to the character in that particular situation for that particular song. So when I do it, I connect to the characters, I empathize to the characters and connect it with the song and try to emote it from the heart. And with the lyrics per se, I'm not able to connect to the songs which are traditionally done in a way of, for example, a prostitute, right? That was Aaj Jaane Ki Zid Na Karo was something where she is not the permanent girl for that man. So I am not able to connect it as soon as the class started because I've never been there. I've never been there where I have to dance for somebody else and be living for somebody else who comes with me and lives for a certain amount of period and then leaves. Because I have not done that, it's very hard for me to even think in that direction. So I would say I would connect more to the situations and the characters, which I am familiar with, which I have been seeing in the films or in the real life, or I am going through, or my friend is going through, or whatever it is, which I can go through. And one more thing which I'm not able to connect it in a traditional way is, as ma'am rightly said in the class, during the class itself, saying the same sentence again and again to your friend. So say I'm the character who, and my friend is saying, just don't go with him. Yeah, he's not a great guy for you. I'd say, no, he's the right guy.
how many times would I say it? Once, twice, thrice, okay, 4 times. Would she be saying again the same questions? Would she be asking the same questions again the 6th time? She'll say, okay, whatever you want, do it. As far as you're happy, just do it. That's what she would say, and I would expect the same thing, right? So that part I'm not able to connect it with the traditional approach. So building a story for the entire and considering the music and the lyrics, the repetition of the sentence as just the music, and having a story by itself run through the Abhinaya and as 2 different tracks, that is helping a lot for me. That's what I would say.
Thank you, Vash. Thank you. I thought it might help you to just hear, those of you that are teachers, to just hear her perspective on what has helped her learn Abhinaya. Thank you all. Again, please feel free to reach out to me, and look forward to seeing you at the next session. Much love, take care, and bye for now. Pranam.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. It was beautiful.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.